welcome to our podcast, Dr. Diaries Adventures to Ireland. I'm your host, Graham. The aim of this podcast is to showcase doctors' relocation journeys to Ireland. So whether you're a doctor interested in the move or just curious about life in Ireland, this is the podcast for you. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Dr. Diaries Adventures to Ireland. This morning we're joined by Stoffel. Stoffel, thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you, Greg. So my name is Stoffel Grobler. I'm a psychiatrist here in Nua in Naas, and I'm from South Africa, and in particular from the Eastern Cape, a town called Port Elizabeth, now known as Tebeka.
Good, great stuff. And we might dive right into your journey. I know you were engaged with Lizzie, part of our psychiatry team in Matchminix, a short while back. Talk us through that journey from start to finish.
It's been quite a long journey for me in a sense, because I worked in Ireland before around 2010, between 2006 and 2010, got my registration then. And then
what brought you back?
I got the job that I always wanted in South Africa. So I was clinical head for 13 years of a hospital there. And then there's a little bit of a twist in the story. I also do insurance work, and an insurer approached me and said, would I like to do some consulting in Europe for them, but I'll have to be based in Europe. And I needed a day job. And they were, there's so many of these agencies that send you emails. And as soon as I connected with Matchminix, I'm not trying to blow smoke, where, but as soon as I connected with Matchminix,
blow away, Stoffel, blow away.
I was just, really impressed with the humanity with which they approached me, and the interest and the lengths they went to assist me, and eventually assisted my wife in getting a job. My wife was an occupational therapist in the same company. So once I got to know them, it was kind of plain sailing, and it happened very quickly from there on. Once I decided, okay, I'm going to take the step, I'm going to come back to Ireland, and I actually want to live in Ireland for the rest of my life. So
amazing. So
I can add on to that. It's adds so many layers to my story. Also, the fact that I'm half Irish.
Well, wow. Okay. Yeah. Tell us about that. How far back do your roots go?
Back to my mother. My mother was from. My grandparents are buried in Donegal. My mother was a nurse. She emigrated to South Africa in the 20s. Met my father there and stayed on. And so we all have Irish citizenship, as does all my kids.
So they're very, very strong Irish roots. Yeah. So again, I'm sure it's a difficult opportunity when the two teams come up against each other in any sporting event. But no, I have a sneaky feeling I still know where your allegiances lie. So we'll park that for the moment. So you got a taster of Ireland back in 2010. Obviously you have very strong Irish roots. And then ultimately it was just that message from Matchminix at some point late last year that just prompted you to think, let's return, and let's return for good. And now bring us then, to that day. Then you came back to Ireland and started afresh with Nua Healthcare. Bring us up to that date.
So moving here this time, I did have to do some, and I know that there are people listening that are looking forward to maybe making a similar step from wherever they are living in the world, and you have to do a little bit of mental preparation. If you come from a country like South Africa, it's in terms of weather and things like that, and the first time the weather did get to me from time to time, the wetness. And I did some mental preparation this time because I was going to come over during winter, and saying to myself, I don't know exactly what I said to myself. I talk to myself a lot. I did some mental preparation. I think it helped. And I think I came over with a different mindset. I think the previous time I came over, I wasn't really set on staying here. I was looking forward to going back to a different job, but this time it's it's like this is where I'm going to retire eventually and finish working.
Okay.
It takes a while to get used to the weather. Let's be honest, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not insurmountable. And yeah, this time it's a lot easier.
Okay. And you mentioned minds there, and I think it's quite relevant, particularly being a mental health professional. It's a big deal, right? Firstly, changing jobs. It's an even bigger deal,
Yeah.
changing jobs and changing country. Talk us
Yes.
through, or if you were to give any bit of advice for someone going on that journey mentally, how did you mentally prepare yourself for that big leap? Despite the fact that it's known territory for a lot of people
Yeah.
we assist, it's totally alien territory for them. They haven't even been in the country before.
Yeah, and it was very much like that for my wife, So, and she kept asking me what should she expect, and she previously worked in the UK, and she said, "Is it like the UK?" And I said, "No, no, it's not at all like the UK. I can't explain exactly why, but it's not the same." um, and
Yeah.
but I think if you're going to think of emigrating, you have to think of what you'll be leaving behind in terms of your preparation as well. The friends and
Sure.
the family, and making sure that you set up to keep those connections. Those connections are really, really important. They're even more important once you're here, to make sure that you make those phone calls as often as possible, and keep connected to the people. I'm still connected to the people I used to work with, just because I worked in a really
Okay.
good team over there. I was in South Africa recently for 2 weeks, and the first day I was there, I went back just to say hello to my old workmates. They all remarked at how relaxed I look, apparently. um, and um, but you need to prepare that there's a loss involved, in the sense that you're going to leave people that you're going to
Sure.
miss, and that it's okay to miss people, and that they're a phone call away. And then knowing that it's different, the shops look different, the layouts are somewhat different, the cost of living is different. If you come from South Africa, the cost of living is not that much different in terms of groceries and things like that, but different in terms
Yeah.
of affordability of housing, and getting a place to stay. That's another challenge in Ireland, is finding a place to stay as well, and that can be also quite a bit of a challenge. This is the other thing that people must be aware of. Just doing their research, making sure that they have ticked all the boxes. So there's a lot of admin involved, apart from the mental health side,
Yeah.
in terms of preparing yourself for the move as well.
As you say, the admin piece, having that down, and being very aware of what's going on,
Yeah,
assists with having your mind ready to go, and ready
yeah,
to make that leap.
yeah.
That's very, very helpful to share. Tell us a little bit about NUA, and the job that you're currently in.
So I absolutely love my job. I really do. Um, and
Great.
I part of
And that's
my
and that's I'm sure Stoffel. That's quite a unique thing, isn't it? I too love what I do, and we can't take that for granted,
no,
because
no,
that's it's quite unique.
absolutely. There's a reason why I also am particularly interested in workplace culture. I did occupational health before I became a psychiatrist, and that became kind of my
Okay.
parallel career, and that's why I'm involved in the insurance industry in terms of disability assessment. So I see people becoming disabled due to mental health disorders, and frequently it's the place of work. So I became very interested in workplace culture and so on. And working in South Africa is in public service was hard. It really took a mental
Sure.
health toll. And going back there to visit my colleagues, I could see the strain in their faces. So I was very aware of. I don't know what the workplace culture will be once I join a new company, because I had a strong team around me, but the bigger culture was quite difficult where I worked, and challenging in South Africa. And coming here, the amount of support that I've been receiving and the friendliness, I'm blown away. The workplace culture is amazing. Every pitches in, everybody does their job, and works really hard. But you look forward to those couple of days when you go to the office and you choose to sit next to the tea room just to see the people pass and hear the latest gossip
Okay.
and so on. And, but yeah, it's workplace culture. I think is for me is extremely important. And the support that we get from each other at work to enjoy. I enjoy my job professionally, but I also enjoy we go to work because we interact with other human beings as well.
Absolutely. So is there an element of that, your workplace, occupational health, mental health involved in your work with NUA, or what does your typical day look like? Maybe that's a better way to
Right. Okay.
to approach it.
For NUA, I think I was interested in the job as well because the profile of clients that I see are somewhat similar to what I was exposed to in South Africa, and it's your
Okay.
it's how shall I put it? You there's no kind of routine. You have to kind of expect the unexpected, and I like that
Sure.
part of the job. So it is. I work from home 3 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week, depending on what is expected of me. I get my program a week before. When I work from home, it's usually because I have reports to write. There's a lot of forensic report writing that has to go into the type of work that I do. And then on a day like today, I'll go into what we call the clinic, and I'll have face-to-face consultations with the clients. I have the option of sometimes seeing them on Teams. I prefer to actually see a person face-to-face. There's just more happening in the
Sure.
personal space than on Teams. So if it's at all possible, I prefer to actually see my clients face to face.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that virtual piece, and I guess mental health grew, I guess, in terms of visibility with COVID, and during that whole period, and people had limited access to it, and others probably were more brought to it with its more accessibility through virtual sessions such as the platforms we're using today, and it
Yes.
has become more accessible, right? But how do you think COVID-19 and our lives following COVID has impacted on our mental health?
I think it's made a huge impact. What I notice is that people are much more open to have conversations about mental health because mental health, when COVID came, it put the topic of mental health on every HR manager in the world's desk and said, you have to deal with
Absolutely, yeah.
this. And suddenly it became more and more okay to talk about our mental health. And you're absolutely right. Virtual consultations opened up a whole service for and availability for services for a lot of people. And again, coming back to the insurance type of work that I did in South Africa, suddenly I could see people all over South Africa, not only in the town that I was living, because I was working virtually, and that continued after COVID. So we got a lot more used to, and it's still convenient to see somebody sometimes on a Teams call, because it suits my program or it suits their program. They need to see the GP in half an hour, and so just a quick check in. So I think it's made huge changes and for the good, but we can't completely lose the human element, especially of the job that we do as mental health care providers.
Absolutely, I fully agree with that. I think telehealth is a rapidly growing space, I think, on the global scale. But you can't beat in person, can you? But
Yeah.
I think it's the accessibility of virtual sessions that I guess expands the audience, and like you rightly said, more people are more comfortable talking about it, which I think can only be a good thing for the global scale, whether you're working or not. If you were, I guess, to give a budding psychiatrist any bit of career advice from your side, what would that be? Even just one piece of advice.
Um, well, if you're going if you're living elsewhere and you want to move to Ireland, make sure you've got all your admin correct and all your logbooks and things like that. That's important.
Okay.
If you're asking me as a mentor, what the advice would be is work-life balance. We tend
Yeah.
to lose that very quickly. We are people who take care of people. We join the profession because we care, and then burnout is a real issue because we're in the helping professions, and we don't always look after ourselves the way that we should look after. If you want to keep enjoying a job for the rest of your life as a psychiatrist, make sure that you have boundaries in place to look after yourself and have a work-life balance as well.
I love that. And
Sounds
you're
very
dead
simple,
right.
but
If
it's very challenging for us.
absolutely, I'm sure, no doubt. And what do you, I'm a big sea swimmer. Have you jumped into that Irish craze? Or you still think we're mad for it?
I'm not a sea swimmer. I used to be an open water swimmer in South Africa.
Okay.
There we call it a dam.
Okay.
That's what you call a lake in South Africa. And I used to swim the
Yeah.
mid-mar mile. I did it about 8 times. Then got kicked in the chest and broke a rib, and have
Okay.
not been. I'm actually, I just joined a swimming club, and I'm planning to swim the SA Masters Swimming Champs next year again, and hopefully join a club here
Very
close
good.
by. So it's pool swimming for me. I love pool swimming, but I'm not getting into the cold Irish Sea. No, thank you very
You're not
much.
getting into the Irish Sea just yet. We'll convince you at some point. But look, those getting outdoors, I think people don't value it enough. It's just so
Yes.
much for your
Yes.
people's mental health. So any piece like that is always helpful. We might, if I can, jump into a couple of quick fire questions
Sure.
for you now, Stoffel, to see how ingrained you are into Irish culture and how strong that half of an Irishman that you are. Tell me, where is your favourite place in Ireland?
I'm going to mention 2 places. The one is Galway, and Galway
Yeah.
City. I think it's just the most beautiful town. When I lived in Letterkenny, I used to drive down from Letterkenny down the west coast, and that whole area, Sligo, Mayo, and then down to Limerick, where my uncle lived, and I went and visited him. So that was always a beautiful drive. Galway City is, I think, just the most beautiful place in Ireland. The whole of Ireland is beautiful. Yeah. You drive 10 minutes from home, and then it's beautiful. So, but Galway City.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm a big fan of Galway too, and I think it has the unofficial label of the culinary capital of Ireland, and I would definitely agree with that. There's a lot to offer when it comes to the good foodie spots.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know.
Next one, Irish celebrity. Who is your favourite Irish celebrity?
This might be a little bit controversial, but it's Jock Nienaber.
Okay. Tell us more. How did you come to this decision?
I'm teasing. It's the coach of Leinster. I don't think he
Yeah.
would be seen as an Irish celebrity, but no.
Yeah.
No, Aisling B. Actually, it's a comedian, Aisling B, and I'm also a big a fan. Aisling has a very interesting story. I read it I read a story on Google the other day, and she's from Kildare, I understand, comedian seems to be, they always put up a brave face, and I think they're the bravest people in the world. But I'm a big fan of Aisling B, and then also Brian O'Driscoll's wife, I think, Amy Huberman. She's also
Amy Huberman, yes. Yeah. Very, very funny. So you're a fan of comedians, that's for sure. And Aisling B also, I'm a big fan here of hers too. She's as you say, a brave comedian, but also she's a big advocate for many marginalised minorities, both here in Ireland and in the UK. So she does some good work through her laughter, I believe.
Yes.
And dare I say, is laughter good medicine?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be able to do my job if I didn't have a sense of humor.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question for you. What's your sort of favourite Irish phrase or slang that you thought when you heard it first, that sounds a bit funny? What the hell do they mean by that?
Well, definitely, what's the crack? And strangely, that
Yeah.
was a big thing I mean, that's the way that people spoke when I was in Donegal. And I haven't really heard it yet in Kildare. But what's the crack is
Okay.
definitely my favorite.
And do you find yourself using it?
No, not here. I would have if I go back to Donegal. I still have a few
Okay.
friends there.
Okay.
Maybe I should.
Very
Maybe I
good.
should
And
start
then
using it.
maybe, yeah. See what reaction you get when you say "What's the crack" with your strong Afrikaans accent. And as ever, wherever we happen to be moving from the world to Ireland, there's always going to be those home comforts, those things that you hold dear. That if you've friends or family coming across to visit you, ask, please stock up on these for me, or you have them sent over to you at some point. What's your home comfort?
Well, I think one that many South Africans will relate to, and that is biltong. I'm fortunate enough to,
Yes,
within about 5 k's from where I live, am I allowed to say the name? Because then it would be advertising.
absolutely. Yeah,
The Irish Biltong
yeah,
Company. And
yeah.
they make the most
How do
amazing
they
book.
match up to Biltong in SA?
Very, very good. I'm
Okay,
100% impressed with what they have achieved. Yeah. But biltong is
very good. So
always.
yeah, yeah. Well, I have to admit, I've been to South Africa a number of times. I've tried biltong a couple of times, and the jury is still out on that. I think I've yet to taste one that takes my fancy. But maybe I need to try the Irish biltong as a taster. But next time I'm back, I'll have to get the real authentic stuff. When I get back over to SA very soon. Tell me, just outside of work life, there's we talk about with doctors, we relocate all the time about the differences between Ireland and SA, but there's a lot of similarities too. What similarities have you found between South African and Irish culture?
Um, I think there's, in terms of the Irish culture, and I've always wondered whether it's because I'm half Irish, but I do think that the Irish they like the South Africans. They're very inviting, friendly, easy to get along with people. That's my impression, and previously it was, and it is again, and again. There's also a workplace culture there as well. That I look forward to going to work and seeing who's at work. These days you don't always know whose day in the office it is, and you know, just having one of those. Water, as they say, water cooler conversations and just catching up.
Sure.
And then going to a pub and the friendliness, going to a pub with a South African Springbok jersey and you're outnumbered 20 to 1. Depending on who wins, you might get some some slack
Yeah.
either way. But yes, there's a friendliness, there's invitingness. I'm not sure what the correct word would be. That it's easy to get along with Irish people, I think, and very similarly with South Africans. There's a similarity. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's definitely there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a common thing we do tend to get with other South Africans, is that it's that similar welcome, and
Yeah.
but also I think people are to a degree blown away by the helpfulness of some Irish people, and they're not looking for anything in return either, which is probably one of those big differences between our
Sorry,
cultures.
can I say something about that? Before I left,
Yeah,
I had two quick, two small crises at work needed to sorting out. And the week before I went back to South Africa for a 2-week break, the nurse that I asked a favor from said to me, "Leave it with me," and I was like, "You mean I can just leave it with you and you'll do it?" That helps. I was kind of taken aback, and some people actually do something and not expect anything in return. I was really impressed. I actually went back and told people about this experience.
Yeah. And what do they say? Do they believe it?
Well, I remember my brother said, I think in South Africa, people are so overworked that you don't want to take on the burden of somebody else. So
Okay.
I think people tend to, uh, uh, you get used to not even asking, or okay, if you'll do this, I'll do this for you. But to just leave it with
Sure.
me that was a breath of fresh air. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, amazing, and amazing to hear that again. You're blowing more hot smoke, Stoffel. So we'll move on from that. If you were to give anyone, we've had a great piece of career advice earlier on, but if you give anyone a piece of just one strongest piece of advice in terms of relocating here from wherever they are, moving from in the world, what would that be? Maybe something you would have liked to have known when you moved your first or your most recent relocation here.
I would imagine the challenge of finding accommodation and not quite expecting. So what I think we're used to in terms of price and size in South Africa is very different from price and size in
Yeah,
Ireland. So don't expect what you had there to have that here. That's the one thing, and be content and be happy with just the fact that you're getting a place to stay that is safe. Safety is
yeah,
something that we tend to take for granted here, that you can't take for granted in other parts of the world. And then if you're going to come over here in summer, realize that it's very different. The sun sets very late. That messes with your sleep pattern, and you have to have blinds. The blackout blinds. And if you're going to come over in
yeah.
winter, expect the sun to set quite early. It's small things that people don't necessarily think of when they relocate or are aware of.
Yeah, okay, that's certainly good to highlight. We might finish on one last thing, and that is, tell me, what's the best part that you found about living here in Ireland, yourself and your wife?
We're still blown away with safety, the safety aspect. One doesn't want to dwell on the negatives of the country where we're coming from. It's a
Sure.
wonderful country, but to not have that latent anxiety that you tend to live with in South Africa, which is the unfortunate reality. Driving after dark, for example, going around and making sure the doors are locked. So safety for us takes away a lot of the anxiety of life and the stress of
Yeah.
life, living here in Ireland. Yeah. And then being able to go out, the transport, jump on the train, go for the weekend to Dublin, and you're back the next day.
Yeah, there, as you say, the things we definitely, as Irish people or people here in Ireland, do certainly take for granted. And we need to be mindful of just how lucky we are to have that freedom
Yeah,
to go out and about as we please.
yeah,
Thanks so much for
absolutely.
sharing that stuff. It was a very honest view in terms of your overall experience here in Ireland. And thanks again for taking the time and joining us today.
Absolutely welcome.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you like what you heard today, please follow wherever you get your podcasts. Want to kickstart your relocation journey? Reach out to the team on our socials at Matchmates.